Hello, this is Norma and welcome to my channel. So today I thought I was just going to do an unboxing because my daughter sent me a gift. She ordered a gift because I've been taking care of her. And I was not going to share what happened, but she said I could share the information because it could help somebody else. So I'm going to start from how all of this started before she went and took her gallbladder out. So 4 years ago, she started to feel some discomfort in her stomach, and she went to several doctors. She went to specialists, and it started just before COVID. So she went and they did 2 ultrasound. They did 1 HIDA scan. I don't know, it's called HIDA scan, H-I-D-A scan. They did 1 endoscopic. They did 1 colonoscopy. They did 1 CT scan, an ultrasound during those 4 years, and nobody could tell her what was going on in her body. And she had gone to specialist after specialist, and with all the scans that they did, nobody could see what happened. So last in April, that morning, early in the morning, she lives in DC and her sister lives in DC also. So her sister had left to go to a conference in New York. She was on a train when she called me, and she called her to say that she was in some terrible pain. And so her sister said, okay, I would get off the train and I would head on back, but I thought it was best she called 911. So she called 911, and my other daughter got off the train, went back to my daughter's apartment, and when she got there, the ambulance was there. They went upstairs. She said 2 guys went upstairs. They asked her some questions, and then they made her walk downstairs, which was just crazy. Anyway, they made her walk downstairs, and they took her to, I think it's called Washington Adventist in DC. They take her to Washington Adventist, and my other daughter took her car and followed them. So they get there, and because she comes with an ambulance, they take her in. And the first thing my daughter said, she was kind of taken aback because when they brought her in, one of the security guards came and checked her body, like frisked her. And she was wondering, what's going on? I'm here in pain and they're frisking me. Then they take her pocketbook and they start to go through it to check what's inside. Now, I've never seen that either. So after they did that, then they let her get off the gurney and sit in a chair. She said there was so many people, and where my other daughter was sitting was not beside her, was in another room. So she sat for a while, and one of the nurses came out, started rattling off names. She would call one name and the person wasn't there. She'll call another name and the person isn't there. So my daughter texts us and she said, the pain is subsiding and I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave and come to you, Mom. And so if it happens again, you can take me to the hospital in Virginia, because I don't live too far from one of the major hospitals here. So she said as she was leaving, the security guy stopped her. He was saying, where are you going? And she was like, I'm going home. So she leaves, she goes home. My other daughter leaves because the pain by then has subsided. She goes and she takes the train to go back. And I go and pick her up and bring her to my house. So when I brought her to my house, she said if there's any other attack, I should take her back to the hospital. So the next morning, she got one of her attacks, started feeling pain. So I drove her to the emergency. So we take her there, And they decided then that they did blood work, and they did an ultrasound, and they did a CT scan. Now, I told you she had 2 ultrasounds before, and this is 4 years later of her going through all this, and nobody could tell her what was going on. Going from one specialist to the other specialist. I don't know what they were reading. And then they told her the reason why she's been having all this pain had nothing to do with the Motrin that they told her to stop taking. The reason she was going through this pain is because she had her gallbladder needed to come out. It has small stones, a lot of small stones in there. And so she called a surgeon. They gave her the name of the surgeon. She called the surgeon, and the surgeon was leaving the practice. So there's someone else that was working there. And they set up the appointment the same week. And we went to talk to the doctor that was going to be doing the surgery. So we get there, we talk to him, he explained the procedure, and he also said that there were 2 ways they could do it. He could do the surgery, or now they had the capability of a robot doing the surgery. So she could pick which one she wanted to do her surgery. So after he told her, they set this surgery date, which was almost 2 weeks, I think, for her to go back. Luckily, we got back home. He told her to get on a low-fat diet and all these things he told her to do. And then she decided that she wanted the doctor to do the surgery and not a robot. Well, that was maybe a week before surgery. The night before her surgery, they called her and they said that the robot was available and the robot will be doing the surgery. And one thing he had told us, he said if he did the surgery, the incisions would be lower on her body, and if the robot did it, it would be higher. I don't know why they decided to use the robot when they gave her a choice. So anyway, we prayed about it, and that morning we went to the surgery center. It was actually, we could pick where his office is or the major hospital. There were 2 major hospitals, and we decided to pick the one that was close to my house. So I was surprised because I know people that have had surgery. One of my other daughters had a procedure. And so normally the day before
Not the day before, but the day of the surgery.
To bathe in, and tell you don't put any cream on you. It's like a antiseptic solution to bathe in. Don't put any cream. Well, I was shocked. They didn't tell my daughter to use anything. They just told her don't put any cream on her. So we get to the hospital, and then they come to do some blood work. And they brought some, like, almost like some strips. It was wet, and they told her that's what she should use to wipe her body, which was weird. But anyway, they're at the hospital, so that's what we used. We wiped her down with it. Not strips, but kind of, it was kind of like packs of napkin. I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, but it was all wet, and I guess it was sanitized, so we used it. We wiped her body with it. So the nurse came. I don't know what was going on in the hospital, because she came to do some blood work. And for me, if you're a nurse and you're coming, you know everything that you need. So she came, and this other nurse was there, a guy, and he was typing some things in the computer. She comes, and then she asks him to go and get some other stuff that she would need. And so he started to act like he couldn't understand what she was saying. And she kept repeating. He kept saying, I don't understand what you're talking about. And I'm like, wait, these are 2 nurses. What's going on? They're not getting along. And why we got to hear all of that? First of all, she's wrong for not bringing all the things she needs. And how can she be saying what she needs instead of him saying you should have brought it, but acting like he don't know? So anyway, the both of them walk outside. They came back in. She's poking my daughter. And then she asked for something else that he needed. They started that whole thing all over again. And my daughter is sitting there like, are these people serious? And then she came to put something else in her IV. She spilled some of it. In fact, the guy had even asked her at one time when she was like fiddling. He said, do you want me to do it? She was like, no, I got it. And if it was me, I would have said, do it. But you know these kids, if I had said, yeah, do it, she would be like, no, Mom, you shouldn't have said that, blah, blah, blah. So I figure she's grown. If she wanted that woman to keep poking on her, there's nothing I can say. So the lady poked and poked, and she finally was able to get her blood. So they take her into surgery, and then we had to step outside. So we're watching the board. So on the board, they have, like when you're preparing to go into surgery, and then it tells you when you're in surgery, and then when you're waking up, it keeps changing as the time is going on. And finally, when you're about to go home. So when it was still showing patient is about to wake up, the doctor walked outside. So he came and he told me that he had done this surgery, and for some reason, the
gallbladder was
pushing on her liver. He had a hard time getting it out. So he had taken part of her liver out. I didn't know at that time that liver can grow back. So I was very worried and upset. Anyway, we talked, and then he left. So when the board showed that she was ready to go home, they called me. So I went in the room, but he did say everything was successful. He got everything out. He had said something about putting dye. I forgot where he said he wanted to put the dye, but the duct was too small. He couldn't do what he wanted to do to see if any polyps had gone there or any stones had slipped in. And I was so stressed out. Half of the thing he was saying, I was saying, let me just see my daughter. So then when I get in the room, she's out of it. She's slurring her words. She's laying in the bed. And I think it might have been about 20 minutes. And then the nurse comes and she's like, so, you ready to go home? And I looked at her, and my daughter was still out of it. My daughter was like, oh, I'm ready to sleep. And she turned around and just dozed off. The anesthesia was still in her. So I waited. She must have slept for about 45 minutes. And when she got up, she was sounding a little bit better. So we took her to the restroom, came back, and my daughter said, yeah, now she could get dressed to leave. So I asked, I said, why you were rushing her? It was so quick. She was slurring her words. She was like, no, we're not rushing her. We're not. In fact, it's very empty here today. She opens the curtain, she's showing. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if you see she's slurring her words, you should have just left her. But anyway, they put her in a wheelchair, and I brought her home. So she's been here all this time. I brought her home since it's close to the hospital to take care of her. So she comes home, and now it's funny. They did this surgery, and apparently they didn't stitch it because apparently sometimes you can get scar tissue, but they put 5 incisions, and then they put, it's almost like industrial glue, and that's what they sealed all of it with. So we were watching it. She couldn't take bath for, I think he said 2 days or 3 days, but she could wash her lower extremity, but not up there. So the 3rd day, we noticed that it was leaking. So we got scared. We called the surgery, the doctor that did the surgery, and we called his office, and they said to watch it, and they will push the appointment closer than the 2 weeks. They will push it ahead a little bit. So we're watching it to see what would happen if we get infected. And then it did get infected, one of it. So we decided we'll just go to the emergency. We went to the emergency. They did, let me see what they did. When we got there, they did blood work, ultrasound, CT scan. And when they did it, they said her hemoglobin, so her hemoglobin was 13. And apparently just before the surgery, it was 11. Well, we get to the hospital after they do all of that. They said that her hemoglobin had gone down to 7.6, which was very alarming. They were talking about doing blood transfusion and all kinds of crazy stuff. Well, thank God, they said that since she was going to her surgeon, they got in touch with him. Since we had to go to this to her surgeon 2 days later, he would decide what to do. His office, when we got there, decided that we should do blood work before it was on the lower level, before we go up to see him. So we went like an hour earlier, did the blood work, went back upstairs to see him. And then the blood work never came back. Well, he checked it, not while we were there. So he checked her incisions, and he said the one that got infected was the one that they used to get the gallbladder out. Then he told us that the gallbladder had, besides for what was there, and that he had to cut the liver. He said it was inflamed. He said it had polyps. He said the wall was taken. So I'm wondering, well, no wonder the girl has been trying to get help for 4 years, going from specialist to specialist, and now it's so bad. Can you imagine? We were watching something on YouTube where somebody gallbladder had gotten gangrene. So I don't know what's going on, where you can go to a specialist and they run all these tests and they cannot find out what's going on with you. So then when we came home, he said that we have to wait twice. He tried while we were in the room with one of the nurse practitioner. He checked to see if the blood work was back. It hadn't come back. So we came back home and they put her on antibiotics. So that was supposed to clear it up. So we came back home, and that evening they sent the blood work. Can you imagine? They told her in an emergency 2 days before that her hemoglobin was 7.6. We get a report from the doctor's office, because it finally came back, that is to 11. We're even asking questions, because my niece is a doctor, so she was asking a question and things to ask him. And one of the things my daughter asked, she was saying, well, did I bleed a lot for it to be so low before we got the results? He said, no, it wasn't that bad, even though he had to stay a little bit to dig it out and had to cut some of her liver off. But then we get the results, and she asked him, she said, well, after you did my surgery, did they check my hemoglobin? He said no. So just to get the results, that it's still 11. So what they're reading in the hospital, I don't even know what's going on. How can you go to one hospital, they tell you this thing, this other hospital, they tell you something else? So I guess what you need to do, the moral of the story is, you just need to be going from one specialist to the other and keep hoping that one day somebody will give you a solution if you're having pain or something is going on with you. So that's my story of my daughter and her getting her gallbladder out. Thank God everything is working now, and she's still here. I'm still taking care of her, but she's almost like 80% okay. I still won't let her drive. And she has to be careful, you know, how she strains. She can't pick up this, she can't pick up that. So I'm always watching her to make sure that she follows everything the doctors say. So if you're having pain and it will not go away, don't just listen to what they say. Oh, don't take this, don't take that. But if pain persists, just keep going and keep going and keep going. And just pray that one day somebody will find out what's going on with you. So now, because I've been such a good nurse to her, she bought me a gift, and we're gonna unbox it together. This has been there for almost a week, but I've been so busy cooking, cleaning, doing everything for her. So now I can open this gift and we can see what's inside. Okay, this is it. I'm like a kid in the candy store. Using my knife, oops, to open it up. I asked her for a clue, and she wouldn't tell me. I would have opened this a long time ago, but I wanted to unbox it for you guys to see. So I had it just sitting. Sometimes when they package these things, it's like they don't want you to open it. I guess they don't want for it to open up. And then you tell them you never got your package. Okay, almost there. So this is the box. This is it. Okay. This is the box that came in. I'm happy. I just love gifts. I'm happy. So let's open it up and see what's inside. If she asked me what I wanted, I would have told her money. So I guess that's why she didn't ask me. She just decided to get it. It's from Bergdorf Goodman. This is it. Fancy. Ooh. One of my favorite perfume first. I love it. I love it. Let me open it. Sorry you can't smell it. And I don't know when I'm gonna leave this earth, so I'm gonna spray on today. We're now waiting for. Did something come with it?
It was supposed to be a card.
She said a card should have been in there.
You just said I love you.
Oh, she said a card. She's telling what should have been inside. She said a card says she loves me. But I know she loves me. Wow, they got this package good. Open it. This is it. What size was it? It was 3.3 fluid ounce. So if you're looking for a nice smelling perfume, this one. Let me spray it. I smell yummy. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification button. So each time I upload, you will be notified. Bye-bye.